Okay, hello, Ilyas. How are you today?
Hello, Timirlan. I'm actually good. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And today we're gonna talk about the really interesting topic, about the political topic, about the borders, and should the borders be open for countries or not, and whether it is bad idea or a good idea. And Ilyas is going to propose for closed borders and that open borders is not a good idea, while I I'm going to present the idea for open borders and that every country should open their borders and that this is a good idea. And I want to start with defining what is open border, what are open borders. I see the open borders as some kind of restricted but open border. So meaning that they are not fully opened. They are not like go who wants to go to our country. It's not like, and it's not like the border between the US and Mexico. It, it's not like you need to create some kind of wall. It is more like a borders within the European Union when or between the, for example, Kazakhstan and Russia, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, when you can easily go, but it's a little bit restricted. Why? Because I think like the fully open borders would be like a distraction for a world, while restricting a little bit would really benefit the world, the whole world and all the countries. And if we like close the borders and the process of going from country to country would be more restricted and more difficult, that would also be bad for countries. And why I want to be borders restricted, but easily restricted, it's because of the fact that it can boost the economy of the countries, because of the fact that if the people of different jobs, if the business entities, business people will go from country to country, it will boost economies of the different countries because of the fact that they will be exchanging the technologies, inventions, money, they will be exchanging goods, and that always adds another value to the country. And of course, the countries will be benefiting from that as well because of the fact that they can they can take the fee of the people that go between the borders. And also, I think that open borders will be beneficial because of the cultural aspect, because of the cultural exchange between the people. Because when the people are exchanging ideas in art, science, in music, in sport, in other different areas, they they improve each other. They exchange different ideas, and then more something more complicated and more interesting creates was created by those people. And also it increases the overall cultural value of the countries because of as I said before, they exchange their maybe cultural ideas, cultural traditions, the know-how, something like other nations do like this, one of the things, and other countries do it other way, and they can improve their like technology and ways of making things, and of course they are also worldviews. They exchange their worldviews, and that can create some new philosophical ideas even. And if we just look at our ancient times, when there is no restricted borders, we had a very good example of benefits, because if we look at like ancient Rome, ancient China, ancient India, we see how goods from ancient China went to ancient India, then to Rome, and we now have a lot of different like things in Europe from the China, and those people, in my opinion, they really benefited from those goods, because there are often goods that are that does not exist in Europe, for example, but they exist in China, and people in Europe just don't know how to create some other things, and that creates like that creates a really interesting environment around those notions. So that was my last words. So thank you for listening. And now, Ilyas, your word.
Well, my friend, I appreciate you that you share with me your opinion on this issue. But it is shown that for example, you mentioned about the ancient time where the countries didn't have any borders. But in the ancient time, they have a lot of wars because of that. Because the borders, the main goal for like making borders for countries, that was the national securities, because there can be a lot of spies, a lot of people who can, who can provide some detriment the for the people of living country. For example, how can you suggest for India and the Pakistan open their borders? They hate each other, and that's not a good idea, I believe. And it's kind of basic fact. So my first argument would be about that the people argue that the open borders could strain public services and the welfare systems as an influx of immigration and might increase demand for the healthcare, education, and social services. It definitely doesn't and will not increase any, economic development of the countries. It will provide more demand for the healthcare because, for example, in Germany, we believe that in Germany, that's best medicine in the world. And like every people without any restriction will go there, but the demand will exceed the, you know, the production of the services. For example, the Center of the Immigration Studies discussed the potential fiscal impacts of increased immigration on public services. And there are concerns that the open borders might lead to increased competition for jobs and some potentially driving down wages and employment opportunities for native workers. Like another example that the economist George Borges suggests that the immigration can negatively impact for wages and the certain low-skilled labor markets. So by opening the borders, we will increase the poverty between the countries, and we will see the differences between the very, very rich countries, such as, for example, some country of Europe like Germany or others, and we will see the distinction between the very poor country like Kyrgyzstan or others. And of course, as I said before, the national security. By opening borders, it could potentially increase the risk of crime and terrorism. And if proper screening and some, security measures are not in place. For example, some studies like a Heritage Foundation highlight the importance of strong border security to prevent illegal activities to ensure the national safety. And like the free movement of people could also pose public health risk, particularly with the spread of some infectious diseases, like it was in 2020, by increasing people who are ill of the COVID-19, of the coronavirus. Like that's why the World Health Organization emphasizes the need for robust health systems and monitoring to manage the cross-border health risk. Like we can't live without borders, because these borders started to protect us from some diseases for some people who are ill, and they like checking it if they are have some potential issues for our country, for the national security especially. And my last argument that there are concerns that some rapid and the large-scale immigration might lead to the integration challenges, and with the immigration and the immigrants and the native population struggling to adapt to cultural differences. Like there would be a mix of the cultures, and we will not see some difference between the nations, and it will kill the national identity. So another sources that I rely on, that the Migration Policy Institute discussed the complexities of integrating large immigrant population into host societies. Like in Europe, they don't like any immigrants from the Middle East countries, and it can lead in the future for some wars and other conflicts between them. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Ilyas, for proposing your position. And I think actually this theme, this topic is very interesting to discuss,
Yeah,
and it is stays to this time, through this time, the most like debatable issue, because nowadays we see a lot of foreigners that came to Europe, that came to more civilized countries, and they just do not hesitate to ruin like their civilization, so someone might say.
yeah, probably.
But in my personal opinion, that people are born with free borders, and countries do not have right to close their borders.
Okay. Thank you for sharing it. See you in the
So yeah,
next video.
thank you for
It
the
was a good one.
conversation, and goodbye.